There's a brutal truth unraveling behind palace gates and Hollywood curtains that no one's brave enough to say out loud. Until now. Because while the world once believed Meghan Markle had found her fairy tale ending with a prince, a title, and the kind of life people only dream about, the reality behind the headlines tells a very different story. One of disillusionment, quiet ambition, and a woman who may have realized far too late that the crown she reached for came with more cracks than diamonds. Because what she thought would be a golden ticket to untouchable status turned out to be a one-way ride into global scrutiny, collapsing business deals, and a husband many now describe as emotionally drained, financially disappointing, and professionally directionless. And as Meghan distances herself from the royal image and repositions herself in the shadows of billionaires, power players, and media elites, sources are whispering louder than ever that she's not just done playing Duchess. She's looking for her next upgrade, and fast. Because when the neighbors start laughing, the friends go silent, and the money stops flowing. What happens to the woman who thought she could outgrow the monarchy and outmaneuver Hollywood all at once? This is the Meghan Markle unraveling you weren't supposed to see. She married into royalty thinking she'd secured a future dripping in generational wealth, old money access, and unshakable power. But behind palace doors and Netflix deals, Meghan quickly learned the fairy tale wasn't paved with gold, was built on shaky PR, strained family ties, and a husband who, according to insiders, brought more emotional chaos than capital. Because despite the headlines and the headlines and the headlines, Prince Harry isn't the billionaire duke she might have imagined. He's a man carrying the weight of a fractured royal past, an uncertain career present, and a financial future that's nowhere near what Meghan reportedly expected when she left Hollywood behind to wear a tiara. And while she once believed being part of the crown would give her access to palaces and power, what she's ended up with is a prince without a portfolio, a husband still haunted by trauma, and a reality where the riches are far more reputation-based than cash-based. And now that the royal magic has fizzled out and the glamour of Duchess life has given way to public scrutiny and Hollywood rejection, Meghan seems to be reassessing everything, not just the brand, not just the image, but the man she built it all around. Because now, according to multiple sources close to the situation, Meghan isn't just stepping away from royal life. She's stepping towards something entirely new, something richer, bolder, and far more calculated than anyone expected. This isn't about jam jars, faux cooking shows, or hollow empowerment speeches anymore. This is about securing the kind of billionaire-level future that doesn't require photo ops or palace drama. A future where private jets are the standard, not the storyline, and where her next chapter is funded not by dusty titles, but by men who don't blink at million-dollar ideas, who operate behind velvet ropes and closed-door boardrooms. Men who, if rumors are true, Meghan has already begun positioning herself around with quiet precision. Because in her world, where influence fades fast and relevance is currency, the next power move has to be bigger. And that means finding a man who doesn't just support the image, but elevates the entire brand without asking her to cut pineapples on camera or smile through another staged Netflix promo. And if that sounds ruthless, Meghan doesn't seem to mind, because as Megyn Kelly boldly put it on air, Meghan Markle would leave Harry tomorrow if someone like Elon Musk showed interest. And the most unsettling part is, no one really disagreed. And the whispers aren't just coming from tabloids or talking heads. This time, the noise is leaking from within Meghan's own circle, former allies and insiders who once protected her now quietly distancing themselves or spilling tea to the press. And what they're saying paints a very different picture of the Duchess. According to a source who spoke with Fox's Kennedy, Meghan has fully reverted to the woman she was before marrying into royalty, a laser-focused actress from LA chasing visibility, opportunity, and proximity to power in all the usual high-net-worth rooms, because that's where she thrives. In spaces where image is everything and status is a currency. And now, with poll numbers plummeting, business ventures failing, and public perception turning ice cold, Meghan's not just navigating a career pivot, she's in survival mode, placing herself back on the radar of media moguls, tech billionaires, and elite strategists who might just offer her the relevancy she's desperately trying to hold on to. And insiders say she's no longer playing the part of royal rebel or Hollywood humanitarian. She's going full influencer energy, all brand, all ambition and zero apologies. But the problem is, no matter how many rooms she steps into or cameras she poses for, the brand she's been trying to build is cracking under its own weight, because the cooking show that was supposed to launch her lifestyle empire became an industry punchline before the first clip even aired. Critics mocked it, producers distanced themselves, and even fellow celebrities started throwing shade at what was clearly a vanity project wrapped in pastel lighting and Pinterest-level recipes. And it didn't stop there. Her infamous jam and jelly line, once hyped as the next Martha Stewart move, has already wilted, with insiders saying the products didn't sell, the marketing flopped, and the whole thing felt like a PR stunt designed more for headlines than actual business. And let's not forget the now viral pineapple tutorial, where Meghan tried to show fans how to pull apart a pineapple with her bare hands, as if unlocking fruit secrets would crown her queen of homemaking. But instead of being charming or helpful, it became meme fodder, shared not for admiration but for laughs. And what's worse is that Meghan reportedly thought it was genius. So genius, in fact, that she pushed to include it as bonus content, proving just how out of touch she's become with what audiences actually want. Because what she sees as elegant lifestyle content, the public sees as awkward, scripted fluff trying too hard to be relatable from someone living a life most can't even imagine. And while Meghan's team may be working overtime to keep the public distracted with carefully curated Instagram posts and polished interviews, the people closest to her, literally, aren't buying the act, because insiders in Montecito say her ultra-wealthy neighbors aren't just skeptical anymore. They're openly laughing behind closed doors, mocking the massive disconnect between Meghan's just a regular mom persona and her demand for private jets, luxury spa retreats, and red carpet access at every turn. It's the kind of reputation collapse you can't Photoshop or PR your way out of. And when the people in your own gated community, the same ones you're trying to impress with sustainability speeches and designer gowns, start treating your brand like a joke, the damage isn't just local, it's viral, because word travels fast in elite circles, and Meghan's brand of relatable royalty has officially worn out its welcome. She wants to be seen as humble, but still wants to fly private. She talks about normalcy, but her life is anything but. And the louder the contradiction gets, the more the elite distance themselves, not just socially but financially. Because in those circles, the second you start looking desperate for relevance, you stop being valuable. And right now, Meghan's value is crashing harder than her latest Netflix pitch. And if the whispers in Montecito weren't loud enough, Hollywood itself is now pulling away, slowly but unmistakably, because the same stars who once stood beside Meghan on stage are now throwing subtle but undeniable shade. Brooke Shields, a name respected across generations, recently took to a podcast and, without naming names, called out Meghan's tired go-to narrative, the infamous "I wrote a letter at 11" empowerment story, saying, in essence, that some stories are best left in the past, especially when they start sounding like recycled PR fluff instead of lived experience. And the moment Brooke dropped that line, listeners felt the shift, because it wasn't just critique, it was a cultural verdict. If Brooke Shields, a woman who survived Hollywood's worst, can't take Meghan seriously, then why should anyone else? And it's not just Brooke going quiet or going cold, either. Mindy Kaling, once a loud supporter, now silent. Oprah, who handed Meghan and Harry their most explosive platform ever, hasn't followed up with any new ventures or visible support. And the Obamas, who once extended warm invitations, are keeping their distance, watching the train wreck from afar. And when even Tyler Perry, the man who once gave Meghan and Harry a private mansion and security detail during their royal escape, starts hinting that he wants his generosity repaid, you know the tide has turned. Because in Hollywood, silence is never just silence, it's strategy. And Meghan's former allies aren't standing with her anymore, they're slowly backing out of the frame, hoping no one notices they were ever part of the picture. While her public image is sinking, Meghan isn't sitting still, because behind the scenes, she's quietly working every angle she can, showing up solo at exclusive events, planting herself at the edge of power, slipping into Silicon Valley mixers, ultra-private charity galas, and hush-hush tech retreats in Big Sur, where cameras are few but influence is high. No Harry, no kids, just Meghan, moving strategically, and one name that keeps popping up in whispers is a European telecom tycoon known for dating actresses long past their prime media moments. There's no official confirmation of anything, but the sightings aren't random, and the proximity is deliberate because Meghan's no stranger to climbing social ladders. And right now, sources say she's placing herself right in the orbit of men who can offer her the kind of next-level security and relevance Harry never could. And she's not stopping there. There's also talk of her circling back toward Netflix's Ted Sarandos. Not for a job pitch, but for proximity, influence, maybe more, because Ted was once a major admirer of hers, publicly calling her a rock star, and Meghan knows how to use admiration like currency. She's reportedly been popping up at events where major decisions are made, not by accident, but by design, hoping that someone powerful, wealthy, and well-connected will see value in her again. But that's the problem, because in these rooms, value isn't based on titles or charity quotes. It's based on metrics, and Meghan's numbers aren't just down, they're radioactive. And while Meghan subtly slips into billionaire circles trying to reboot her brand and reframe her future, Prince Harry is visibly fading into the background, becoming, as insiders describe, a shell of the man he once was, stripped of his military titles, distanced from his royal roots, and caught in a loop of failed projects and therapy speak interviews that feel more like damage control than personal growth. He's no longer the bold prince walking behind his mother's coffin or serving in Afghanistan. He's now the quiet sidekick in Meghan's narrative, showing up to podcast interviews and camera appearances only to nod while she delivers polished monologues about mental health and empowerment. And while Meghan is making power moves with laser focus, Harry is left looking aimless, reduced to a soundbite, a prop, a husband who doesn't push back even when their brand is publicly burning. And that's not just sad. It's strategic because Meghan, according to those close to the couple, sees her own trajectory as separate from Harry's now, and she's moving accordingly, attending elite events solo, reviving her Hollywood contacts, leaning into the very world she once claimed to have left behind, while Harry, caught between two identities with no compass and no consistent support, is just tagging along. And the few people still close to him say he knows it. He knows the fairy tale is cracked. He knows the audience has shifted, and worst of all, he knows he's no longer the main character in his own story. So now the curtain's pulled back, the illusion's broken, and the narrative has flipped entirely. Because Meghan Markle didn't escape the royal family. She escaped the system that kept her myth alive, and out here in the raw, unscripted chaos of Hollywood and high society, there's no palace protocol to protect her image, no crown to shield her moves, and no audience left clapping for the same recycled story. Her dream of becoming a global mogul, a lifestyle queen, a billionaire's power partner, is starting to look less like a plan and more like a fantasy. Because the circles she's trying to climb into can smell desperation, and in those elite spaces, influence isn't inherited, it's earned. And right now, Meghan's metrics, her trust factor, her profitability, her public favor, they're all in free fall. And while she keeps chasing relevancy through photo ops and pineapple hacks, the world is tuning out, the headlines are colder, and even the fans who once defended her are now asking the same quiet question. What's the end game? Because when the crown fades, when Hollywood stops calling, and when the billionaires don't bite, what's left for a woman who built her empire on image? The show's over. The cameras are still rolling, but the audience has already moved on.